I never imagined shame could show up dressed in silk, bubbling in champagne flutes. From the third row, I wore my one formal dress, snagged years ago on clearance, trying to blend in among polished faces and rehearsed smiles. Luca, my 8-year-old, swung his legs under the table. The freshly tailored suit had eaten up 2 whole paychecks, but he felt like a real gentleman, and for a moment, I believed that day might slide us back into the family. Emma, the bride, crossed the hall like she was on a red carpet. She'd always been that way, gorgeous, magnetic, handpicked for our mom's affection, praise for her, comparisons for me. While the flashes chased Emma, I learned to live in the margins. Still, I showed up. I smiled for the pictures, clapped for the kiss, and answered the comments politely. "You're the older sister? You don't even look like you have a kid." When the speeches started, the groom's best friend warmed things up with light jokes, polite laughs, everything by the book. Drink in hand, I waited for some memory to pop up that would tie our story together. Then they announced, "And now Emma would like to say a few words." I raised my glass, hoping to hear about love, childhood, sisterhood. But before the crystal touched my lips, she cleared her throat, scanned the crowd, and the hush that felt like a bad omen. I should have seen it coming before the first clink of crystal. Emma lifted her glass overhead and swept the room with a smile everyone adored. "Thank you for coming," she said, all excitement. "Having you here means the world. And of course, I need to talk about my big sister." I looked at Luca. He looked back, eyes full of hope. Maybe I thought she'd say something nice. "All has always been an example," Emma went on. "Single mom, strong, independent, and as you can see, nobody else wanted her." Laughter came fast, loud, tinny. My stomach dropped. A few guests traded glances, but most jumped in on the joke. Luca tugged my sleeve. "Why did she say that, Mom?" Before I could answer, my mother, from another table, tossed out her own joke. Used goods, but still in decent shape. Another round of laughs. And with it, the certainty that from that moment on, I wasn't family or guest, just the headliner in a show of pity and shame. I froze. The air wouldn't go in. My face burned, but I held back the tears, not in front of my kid, and definitely not in front of them. I clenched the napkin like a rope in the dark. I swept the table with a silent plea for help. Nothing. Grandpa stared at his plate. My cousin laughed at her phone. The uncle who used to say I looked like my dad kept his eyes on the cloth. Luca, eyebrows knitted, tried to understand why the mom who patched his knees and stayed up for math homework was being humiliated by her own family. That's what really broke me. I thought about standing up, grabbing his hand, and leaving for good. I also wanted to speak up, spill everything I'd carried and survived. But my voice died in my throat, my legs shook. Then a chair scraped, slicing through the party noise. Callum, Emma's flawless groom, stood up slowly. He didn't look for applause or even glance at Emma. He stared straight at me, and something in his face made the whole room hold its breath. Right then I knew, no savior was coming, no ballroom brawl either. What was coming was a reckoning, and nobody would walk away unscathed. Everyone thinks the oldest kid takes charge. In my family, I became the fire alarm. Don't do what Laura did. I'm 34, a single mom, the black sheep of a flock that loves to point fingers. I share a cramped 2-bedroom on the edge of town with Luca, my 8-year-old. He's the high point of my day, the reason I still walk into places that usually shrink me. Mornings, I pour cappuccinos at a cafe. Nights, I run the front desk at a no-frills hotel. Zero glamour. On Saturdays, the big premiere is the pancake I flip for him. I patch ripped jeans, tell bedtime stories, and in return I get the title of superhero. That keeps me standing. To my people, being a single mom equals failure. My mom, Judith, loves to remind me at every holiday dinner. She lives to keep up appearances and sees Emma's wedding as a way to polish the family name. Emma, 5 years younger, walks through life like it's a runway. Everything shows up effortlessly, and she makes it look hard-won. She's the golden child. If she sneezes, she gets a silk handkerchief. If I get sick, I get a lecture about vitamins and drama. And the wedding's getting closer. Another event packed with perfect speeches, where my official role is to fit into a corner, or maybe surprise the ones who already wrote me off. I was 25 when I learned Luca was growing inside me. In that moment, the world lit up in new colors, until 5 months later, his dad vanished without a trace. No note, no explanation. Silence. At home, the echo was the same. Disapproving looks, and "I told you so," whispered in the halls. I decided to face it all alone. And then Luca was born. When I held him in my arms, every critique faded into white noise. Even so, deep down, I had a simple wish: to be seen beyond the single mom tag, to be considered worthy of affection. That wish flared back up when Emma's wedding invitation arrived. My name misspelled, no spot in the bridal party, but I said yes. I told myself it'd be an elegant full stop, maybe a chance to show I was moving on. The big day came. A garden draped in white roses, flatware edged in gold, a string quartet filling the air. Emma looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Flawless veil, cover-girl smile. When she saw me, the smile flickered. "You came," she blurted, surprised. Then she said Luca was huge and went back to her runway of flashes. Aunt Judith passed me without a nod, like I was staff. That stung. But one look at Luca, mesmerized by the chandelier he called a spaceship, reminded me why I was there. He straightened his little tie, practiced a smile in the bathroom mirror while I pinned my hair with borrowed clips, the red carpet version we could afford. The reception kicked off. I felt out of place, but Luca was glowing. When he said Emma looked like a princess, I decided to stay. Maybe that night wouldn't be the olive branch I'd hoped for, but it would be a scene where my kid could stash a happy memory. And while the quartet played and the chatter echoed, I realized something crucial. It wasn't their approval I wanted. It was the life I was building with Luca day after day. Right there, under the spaceship chandelier, I chose to belong only where his smile lit up. Table 9, tucked by the bathrooms. That fit my role at the party so well I laughed for the first time that night. The salad came. Luca dripped chocolate mousse on his tie, and I wiped it off before anyone noticed. I avoided meeting my mom's eyes. Just hearing my name whispered between glasses made my face burn. Then the mic screeched. I realized the ceremony wasn't about unity or forgiveness. It was just another stage for Emma to shine, and me, possibly, the closing joke. The speeches rolled in with that familiar tone, kind, sugary, rehearsed. Emma rose with her glass, spine straight, nails still fresh from the salon. Her dress caught the reception lights, and the hall sank into a complicit hush. "Thank you for being here," she said, waiting until the last fork hit the plate. "Today I'm the happiest woman in the world, surrounded by the people who really matter." From our back row table, I tried to believe I made that list. Luca, perched on the edge of his chair, swung his legs like all those lights were fairy tale stars, and while some invisible teleprompter guided Emma's words, I wondered, when the joke finally came, would I still be able to laugh at myself? The hall was still buzzing from the previous toast when Emma raised her glass. She started calmly, talking about her love for Callum, the importance of timing, the idea of fate. I breathed easier. Maybe no poison would come. She turned, her eyes landing on me, and her tone slid over like a velvet-covered blade. "And of course I can't forget my older sister." The pause was deliberate, a true example of strength. All heads turned. I settled into my chair, smiling out of politeness. "The bravest woman I know," she went on. "Raised a kid all by herself, no partner, just her, and whoever agreed to take a babysitting shift." Snickers popped around. My stomach twisted. Luca, beside me, frowned, trying to figure out why they were mocking his mom. Emma kept her voice light, but every syllable stung. "Let's be honest. Single mom, nobody wanted her, but she keeps showing up." This time the laughter rang out loud and free. My breath caught. Cold hands clenched my napkin. Then came the final blow. My mother, Judith, laughed above everyone, leaned over the table and added, "Second-hand piece, but you can polish it up." Another burst of laughter, no attempt to hide the cruelty. The room spun. I sat there, marooned, surrounded by people who thought it normal to boil down the decade I spent working and raising Luca into a cheap joke, as if being alone made me smaller. Why did she say that? What does she mean? I tried to answer, but my voice failed. This time, I couldn't shield him. Now he clearly saw how the family looks at me. My heart raced. I searched for someone to cut the tension, to call a halt. No one moved. Some stared into their glasses, others pretended to check their phones. Even Grandpa Norman, who used to call me Little Lion, acted like he didn't see me. I was alone again. If the attack had been only at me, I could have taken it. I've swallowed worse. I would have grabbed Luca's hand and walked out with my head high. But facing the confusion in his eyes, trying to grasp why the same people cheering minutes ago were now laughing at his mom, cut deeper than any word. I stood up without rehearsing a speech or seeking attention. I just needed to breathe. The chair creaked, my hands shook. Then, from the head table, another creak answered. Callum, the groom, got up. Pale, jaw clenched, he yanked the mic from Emma's hand. The hall froze. No laughter, no whisper. In that moment, I knew the script for the party had just been shredded. Callum straightened slowly. One hand braced on the table edge, the other on the mic. His gaze, fixed on me, only me, sliced across the hall. For a moment I thought another joke was coming, some trick to ease the tension the way my family always does. But no smile, no laugh. His face held something hard to read, maybe anger, maybe disappointment. Before he spoke, I pushed my chair back and reached for Luca's hand. I planned to leave silently, head high, no tears for anyone's satisfaction. I've done it before. I could do it again. I'd taken the first step when Callum's voice filled the space. Low, steady. "Ara, stay." I stopped. Conversation shrank to whispers, table by table, like wind through dry leaves. Emma went rigid. Judith narrowed her eyes. The DJ hovered over the volume knob, but backed off when Callum raised his hand. He didn't look away for even a second. The hall hung in pause, like the air had suddenly thickened. Callum shoved the chair back, stood up unhurriedly, and walked to the middle of the room. Each step sounded heavy, not rushed but resolved. He stopped a few feet from our table, where Luca was trying to act normal in front of his now cold salad, and raised his voice, firm yet restrained enough for each syllable to carry. I've spent the last year listening to speeches about family, about appearances, tradition, loyalty. What I just witnessed has none of that. It was cruelty dressed up as a joke. The guests shrank. Some looked to Judith, others buried their eyes in their glasses. Total silence. Callum turned slightly and aimed at Emma. "You mocked your own sister for being a single mom. You made her kids sit front row for the group laugh." Emma opened her mouth, but no sound came. Callum went on without raising his voice. "Ara didn't choose the situation she's in. She came today, sat quietly in the back, smiled for you. She brought her son to see your big day, and got mockery as thanks." For a second, it felt like the ceiling would cave in on everyone. Emma, so used to the spotlight, shrank until she fit inside her own shadow. Callum widened his gaze to catch every face around him. Ara isn't here to defend herself. She didn't ask for pity either, but she deserved respect, and that's not what she got. He let the line sit in the air, where every heart could hear it beating. And the hall, eager for a party moments ago, discovered the weight of silence. She never looked for the spotlight. Even so, that night, he was the one who brought everything to a halt. The hall had been in celebration mode, clinking glasses, muffled laughs, background music, until Callum took the mic. If I'm about to join a family that calls cruelty a joke and shame a tradition, I need to rethink the man I want to be. His words sliced across the tables like a sharp whisper. A fork clattered. Someone muttered, "Is this for real?" Luca, beside me, widened his eyes but didn't let go of my hand. I'd come just to survive the night. Being defended in front of everyone wasn't in the script. Callum leaned down, meeting Luca's eyes. Never forget, your mom is the strongest person here." Then he faced the crowd once more. "I've seen enough." He let go of the mic, walked past Emma without flinching, and left through the door. Absolute silence. No applause, no comment. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the lonely clink of a spoon. The fairy tale had shattered for good, but for the first time in a long while, I wasn't the shard. The hall froze when the door slammed behind Callum. The silence that settled made it clear something had changed. Emma stayed at the head of the table, motionless, as if the floor had vanished under her feet. Her flawless posture gave way. There were no more smiles around her, only faces caught between shock and discomfort. Judith stood up first. The chair creaked, breaking the silence. "How ungrateful!" she shot out, pointing at the empty doorway. "He embarrassed you, just like his sister, always thinking only of herself." This time, though, her words died in the air. The control she used to have over the room was gone, and no one echoed her criticism. I didn't answer. For the first time, I felt I didn't have to shrink from her voice. I looked at Luca. He was watching me, kind of lost. "Shall we?" he whispered. "Let's go home," I said, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. I straightened up, took his hand, and we headed down the hallway. People stepped aside, opening a quiet path. Some looked away. Others seemed to want to speak but couldn't find words to ease the tension. Almost at the door, I heard my name. Ara, it was my grandpa, Norman. He rose slowly, pale, eyes wet. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low and shaky. "I should have stopped this years ago." I stopped. The whole room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for my reply. I only nodded. The words wouldn't come. No resentment. I already knew the cost of staying silent. I'd paid it. I kept the lesson but dropped the guilt that wasn't mine. Outside, the cold cut deep, but it was the kind that wakes you up. Luca squeezed my hand. "So, it's over?" he asked. "It's over," I said, and the smile came easy. Ended the way it needed to. We drove home with no music, no talking, just the engine, the asphalt, and Luca's fingers drumming on the armrest in a rhythm that somehow sounded like relief. That night, after tucking him in and kissing his forehead, I stood in the doorway a bit longer than usual. He didn't ask anything else. He didn't need to. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of calls. Unknown numbers, cousins I barely remember, random guests. I ignored them all. The phone buzzed again. A message from a friend who'd been at the wedding. They recorded Callum's speech. It's on Facebook. Over 50,000 views. Check the comments. People are on your side. I opened the video. There was Callum, voice steady in front of the whole room, and frozen on the screen, me holding Luca's hand. In the comments, a wave of support. "This guy's brave. She deserved better. Crying here. Every single mom just got a bit of justice." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt a good quiet, like a knot pulled tight for years had finally loosened. The week it all came out, Emma tried to spin the story. Said Callum went too far. It was just a joke. The world's too sensitive. But the truth was planted, and no one was laughing. A few days later, I found a simple bouquet of wildflowers at my door. No note, just a card. For the lioness. I didn't need to ask who sent it. The wedding never happened, and somehow something bigger did. For the first time, the weight of shame wasn't mine. I wasn't the one who had to apologize. I left that room with my son in my arms, dignity intact and chin up. Right there, in front of everyone, and maybe the whole internet, someone remembered what strength really means. 6 months have passed since the day that never was. Emma and Callum broke off the engagement. No statement, no fuss. Silence wiped out the perfect storyline they'd been selling. Emma slid back into the social scene as if the night had been erased. The photos disappeared from her feed. She never reached out, and I'm not sure she expected me to. Judith called once, not to say sorry, but to tell me I'd shamed the family by not laughing along. I listened for 30 seconds. Then I said what I never thought I could. "I'm not your scapegoat anymore." I hung up. No anger, no scene, just a clean final period. Little by little, I understood. I didn't need a grand family apology or late recognition. I just had to stop waiting for their approval to see my own worth. Life rolls on the same, long shifts, 2 dinners some nights, pancakes for Luca, something green for me. The difference is how I walk. I'm no longer hunched under years of shame or hiding in the back of rooms. Luca's changed too. Now he questions the world, wants to know why some hurt and others protect. He talks about Callum like a superhero and, with his action figures, gives speeches defending the little guy. I see in him the mark of that night. He'll grow up strong, kind, ready to speak up when it matters. A few days ago, while we brushed our teeth, he looked at me in the mirror. "Mom, are you still sad about what Aunt Emma said?" I set down the brush, answered, "Not anymore." "Why?" He shrugged, toothpaste dripping down his chin. "I think you won even though it wasn't a fight." That stuck with me. He was right. I didn't shout, didn't throw insults back, didn't demand justice out loud. I just stood up, took my son's hand, and walked out. Someone there realized silence didn't fit anymore. And in that simple choice, we won. Callum didn't step in just to defend me. He showed everyone what love really looks like. It's not the love in perfect photos or flower-lined aisles. It's the love that, seeing someone get hurt, stands up and says, "Today, this ends here." I learned 3 things that night, things I carry like tattoos. Being alone doesn't mean you're unwanted. Kindness is anything but weakness. Once you reclaim your dignity, no one can ever take it away again. So no, I didn't dance at my sister's wedding. I didn't give a speech, didn't catch the bouquet, didn't cry happy tears under twinkling lights. I walked out with something bigger than any applause, head held high, my son's hand in mine, and the calm certainty I don't owe anyone an explanation. That was the ending nobody predicted, and exactly what I needed. If this story touched you, if anyone's ever tried to shrink your worth in a room full of familiar faces, remember, your voice matters, your dignity is non-negotiable, and you're not alone. Found strength in these words? Then, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and tell us in the comments, when did someone stand up for you, or you had to stand up for yourself? And if you want to dive into more real stories that poke at certainties, challenge expectations, and remind us what it means to be human, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. There's lots more coming. Thanks for being here.